Welcome back to the Kingfisher Podcast with Eric and Bron Whitley. We're so glad to have you with us again today, and we just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's 2024. Can you believe it?
It has come around really quickly.
Last year just flew by.
I know.
Maybe it's just me.
No, I think I blinked and the year ended. I'm not sure.
Ever since we had children, every year just flies by because it's so packed and busy all the time. I think maybe that's why.
Yeah, I don't think we stopped to take a breath.
Well, did you have a nice Christmas?
I always have a nice Christmas.
Yeah, I love Christmas. It's so great to get together with family. And this year we went to my sister's house, which we haven't done before. She has a new house, so that was lovely. That
was very special. It's really good.
And it's great getting all of the cousins together. There's so many of them these days, and they love each other so much. It's kind of raucous when they all get together.
It is happy chaos, I guess you could call it.
It's a special thing, though. It really is wonderful. I love that they get to grow up together and have that special relationship and connection with each other.
Well, you know, at this time of year, we tend to sort of look back at the year that we just went through and reminisce a little bit and maybe think about the good things and some of the bad things. But it's really common for us to look forward as well. And you know, as we go into 2024, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are already thinking, I want to make this year better than last year, or they have aspirations and New Year's resolutions and all kinds of things going through their mind as we prepare for the year ahead.
Yeah, I mean, some people think it's kind of cringe to come up with New Year's resolutions because it's the cliche, you know, but I actually really think it's a good idea. It's a good thing to do. As someone who likes to plan and strategize in my business, I also like to do that in my life. I like to have a think about where I am, do a bit of a stock take. Where am I? What am I doing? Am I on the path that I want to be on? Are there things that I would like to do differently, take myself in a different direction, take our family in a different direction? And I think the new year is a great time. I mean, you can do it at any time, but the new year is a great time to really take that approach and look at your life and where you're headed.
Yeah, I think it's just a really fantastic opportunity to start fresh. Like, I know in reality, there's nothing different about one day to the next just because we now have a higher letter number at the end of the year. It's not anything different, but there does seem to be that opportunity and hope and just an openness to the new when we come into a new year.
It's like you can start with a blank slate all over again.
It is. And I think a lot of people kind of do that. And as you say, you are kind of a goal-driven person. I know you like to set goals and try to achieve those things. And that's a really common practice at this time of the year, is to set some goals for the year, whether it's to lose weight or read the Bible more, or I don't know, I want to run a marathon in the year, or, you know, like whatever the goals are and the aspirations are. It's a really fun time, I think, to just sort of dream and do that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to get fitter this year. My Apple Watch has been insulting me.
Is that Siri?
It's kind of rude.
Maybe it's Siri. I don't know. Just for all of you listening, I'm very anti-Apple, anti-Mac.
We're a split household.
We are house divided. I'm all Android and Microsoft
and I'm
whatever
all
else.
Apple.
Yes. So I tend to.
I try to bring you over to the dark side, but you never will come.
I can't figure it out. I couldn't operate that lightsaber.
I'm getting half the kids over to my side.
Yeah, they're young and impressionable. I'm old and stubborn.
But what are some of your New Year's resolutions this year?
Well, we recently went away for our anniversary, and it was about the kids. And so we just had some downtime, and I was doing a bit of reading, and I went, I think I'm going to try and read more books this year. I haven't necessarily set a goal. I'm going to read 12 books or, you know, like one a month or anything like that, but that would probably be an attainable goal for me. But I just feel like I want to read a bit more.
Yeah. I definitely want to read more. I feel like I've been getting distracted and doing other things, and I love books. I'm an author, so books are a very big part of my life, and I haven't been reading as much as I would like to. And yes, when we went away for our anniversary trip, we both did some reading, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I always do when we go on holidays. I love to read then, but I want to do more reading just during the week instead of other things like browsing social media or watching TV or whatever, you know, which are easy to do when you're a mum and you're trying to do housework at night or whatever it is, it's much easier to just listen to something. But, there's audiobooks as well. I could do that, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think some other goals I have are probably just finding more time to do things I enjoy. It's just so, as you say, last year went by so quick because there's so many things in our schedule that I can't really change. I've got to drive kids to school at a certain time and pick them up at a certain time, and ballet and baseball and other things are on at certain times in my life. But there's a lot of time that is not taken up officially with anything that I would like to try and live, I guess, have a little bit more recreation and not just always waste it. As you say, like on social media, it's very easy. It's convenient to sit down, turn on the TV.
Yeah, when you're tired.
Turn on the phone. But to maybe do things like hiking, because I love the outdoors, hike more often or go fishing more often, just because those things do bring life to me. They're really enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think as parents, I'm sure other parents can relate to this, but when you have children, a lot of your hobbies and the things that you enjoy fall by the wayside because it becomes about this other little creature that you've got to take care of and that you love, but you can't just leave them by themselves. And especially for mums, I think we find that our life kind of gets consumed by our children. And I just remember when, after I had our third child, sitting down and thinking, I don't even remember what I enjoy doing anymore because it's been so long since I did fun things just for myself. And so I think one of the challenges for parents when you're coming through, like we've now got children who are all over the age of 10, it's hard to remember what it is that you did enjoy doing and to fit those things back into your life now that the kids don't need you quite as much. And we're going into a different sort of season of life. And this is a chance for us to sow some positive things back into our habits and our routines.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the coming years as well as this specific year. I think are going to be really exciting years. I think they'll be good. I look forward to seeing what they bring. Well, having mentioned that we were doing a bit of reading, one of the books I was reading on our trip was The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. Now, Dave Grohl, if you don't know, is the lead singer of Foo Fighters and the former drummer of Nirvana, and just a really big...
And you're a big fan.
character in music, in the music industry. And yes, I like some Dave Grohl. Anyway, I was reading his book, and he was telling his story of how he became this musician, because he admittedly was kind of this nerdy, sort of poor kid, but had all these aspirations for music. And he mentioned this thing called manifesting. Now, he mentioned it in one of the things that he was doing at some point where he was just kind of crying out to the universe that his dream had to come true. And he said, I'm not much into manifesting, but I think that's kind of what I did. And it's funny, I also saw on Instagram the other day somebody, and they were just making a joke about it, but they said, I look at a lot of four-wheel drive and camping and fishing stuff on Instagram, and this was somebody catching a fish. I think I manifested this fish, they made this comment. Anyway, manifesting is kind of a weird word. It's a loaded word for me, considering I've done a lot of deliverance, and usually when I say manifesting, it means a demon's acting up.
Demonic manifestation.
That's it. So to hear this word, it kind of piqued my interest. Yeah,
well, I'm an author, so I mix in author communities, and I hear this a lot. There's a lot of authors that they actually plan their strategies as an author around manifesting, and they have courses about it, and it's become a real buzzword. I think there's a lot of people out there who are trying to manifest the future that they want. But as a Christian, is that something that we should be participating in?
Well, I think it's a really valid question, particularly since we're talking about the new year and looking ahead and forming goals and, trying to work towards something better in our life, whatever that may be, better health, a better job, better relationships, whatever it may be. I did some research on manifesting because I wasn't super familiar with it, but I thought this is kind of a strange concept, and it's starting to pop up more and more. As you say, it's pretty prevalent out in the world. And so, yes, it's a great question. Should Christians participate or practice manifesting? I'm not going to make you wait to the end to give you the answer. My answer...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, there you go. Is no. And what I would like to talk about is the reason why I would say no. Now, for some of you listening, you might not know what manifesting is as well. So I have a definition here. And I just pulled this stuff off the internet, just literally kind of Googled some of these things to find this information. So this is not from any official manifesting network or anything, but this is just what, if you Google it, it just says, manifesting is the practice of bringing something you want into existence through aspirational thought practices. It involves concentrating on your goals, positive thinking, and directed action. The idea of manifesting your reality through thought can be traced back to ancient spiritual teachings, including
Hinduism, yeah.
Yeah, Hindu ideas, sorry. And it's about the unity of your mind, body, and the universe. Now, I'll stop there. This is where I start to have a problem with it. When you read the first part about, concentrating on your goals, that's a good thing. I don't see anything wrong with concentrating on your goals. It's actually something they teach. If you want to reach a goal, you've got to revisit it at increments to make sure you're still on track to get there. If you just write it down on January 1st and don't look at it till December, you're probably not going to reach that goal.
Yeah, and writing down your goals is a good thing too.
Yeah, so that's great. Positive thinking. Well, even the Bible.
We're not against that.
No, the Bible even says whatever's good, whatever's pure,
think
positive
about,
stuff.
Think about
that.
Good things.
That's
yeah.
it.
And I think the Bible also tells us to take our thoughts captive. And I often talk about, if you have negative thoughts, critical thoughts, judgmental thoughts, angry thoughts about people, hate, or whatever, take those thoughts captive, get rid of them, and purposely choose to think positive things, loving things, kind things, good things. That's a different concept though, right?
Yeah. Well, what kind of hangs me up is that it's based on, if you really start to delve into it, there are some Hindu ideas, as it mentions here in this definition, but there's a lot of very subtle, that most people wouldn't pick up on, New Age and occultic, especially occultic practices that are involved in doing these, concentrating on our goals and positive thinking. The way that they do that, I think, is probably spiritually dangerous, is how I would put it.
Yeah, the Bible tells us to take all of our requests to God. And with manifesting, you're calling out to the universe. Well, the universe is not going to help you.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. That concept of the universe, like there's some benevolent energy out there that wants to partner with us just because we open ourselves to it. It sounds kind of nice, and it sounds very spiritually dangerous from what I know of the spiritual realm, to open yourself up to just random energy or random consciousness. You don't know what you're interacting with. And it's kind of the Wild West sometimes in the spiritual realm. And I just think it's very dangerous to do that. But another problem I have with this manifesting is because they've taken God out of it and put universe in there. So this just removes this sort of existence of God and puts it all on this vague universe.
Yes, undefined thing. And I think as a Christian, we should be taking our requests to God. We should be relying on him in faith. It says that in the Bible, it says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. And that's because with our faith, we're trusting in him. We're relying on him to provide for our needs. If we have a goal, something that we want to achieve in life, we should take it to him and talk to him about it and ask him for those things.
Well, I always just try to recognize whether it's a sporting achievement or whatever. I've talked to our son about this. He plays sports and he's quite an athlete. He excels at sports. And I've talked to him to say, you need to recognize that your ability, don't get cocky, don't get an ego and whatever else, your ability comes from God. And so when you accomplish things through athletics and through sports, you need to be sure within yourself to give God the glory for that. Yes, you're the one who is out there swinging the bat or catching the ball or running around, but you couldn't do those things if God hadn't placed that ability and that strength in your body. And I think recognizing that everything good that we have comes from God is really important. So you bring up that point. One of my problems, I think, with manifesting is it's very selfish. It's very inward focused. And it's not about anybody else. It's about, what do I desire? What do I want? And how can I achieve that or get that? And then obviously they use their thoughts and focus and whatever else to try and reach those goals. But it's always about, what do I want?
Yeah, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Whereas God wants us to talk to him about it And also he wants us to put other people first and to ask for things for others, not just for ourselves, but also to give him the glory and the thanks. You know, you hear a lot of times people talking about having an attitude of gratitude, but if you're just having an attitude of gratitude and there's no one that you're grateful to, what is gratitude unless you're grateful to someone? And I think, you know, we are supposed to be grateful to God for what he has given us. We can't be grateful to nothing.
Yeah, well, and that is, as I was reading a lot of the material on manifesting, is one of their tips is to live a life of gratitude. But as you say, gratitude to who? Yourself, to the universe, to something, you know, like what are you grateful for and grateful to? Quite literally, it's a practice of focusing on what you want. It really is that. It's selfish in nature.
Yeah, you're trying to achieve it on your own and then you're going to thank yourself for it. It's a little bit narcissistic, honestly.
Well, I just think it is on the verge of worshiping yourself.
Yeah.
And it does have that kind of attitude to it that if I can think it and I think hard enough, I can make it happen. It really is. What you can think it into being is really what manifesting is in a lot of ways and in a simple definition.
So what would be a better, more godly approach to having New Year's resolutions and strategizing about how you want your life to look in the future and how you're going to get there?
Look, obviously, I think we can make resolutions that are in line with the Bible. So it might be without asking God, like for us, we probably would stop and say, God, what are your goals for my life in 2024? And listen for that. You know, as prophetic people, we want to listen to God and let him sort of share that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone can do that. But even on the simple side, it might just be in line with the Bible and say, I want to be a more giving person this year. So when I have opportunity to give to someone, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that in God's name, you know?
Yeah. And I think you make a really good point that when we want to live our lives for God, it's really important to partner with him. And so that means asking him. And you might be surprised. Your goals as a person might be, I want to lose weight, I want to exercise more, I want to spend more time with my family, you know, all good things. But as you say, they're pretty self-focused and fairly limited in scope, honestly. And I have found that when I ask God, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want next year to look like? That he gives me goals that I hadn't thought of and that are far bigger and more amazing than I would have dreamed of. Sometimes he's actually even said to me, dream with me. When I've asked him, what should I do? He says, dream with me. He wants us to go bigger. He doesn't want us to just focus on these little things of each day, which are all good things. There's nothing wrong with them, but he wants us to dream with him and to strategize in a way that brings his kingdom and changes the world.
Yeah, well, we are his ambassadors. So it's not, I guess the reason I answered the way I did was because as Christians, our life is not necessarily all about us and our comfort and our want and, you know, what we want and all that we are supposed to be outwardly focused, that we are to serve others, that we are to help others, that we are to be focused on God and not just ourselves. And sometimes that's a self-denial of things, you know?
And that actually benefits all of us in the long run.
It does. And that's kind of the definition of love, is putting others before yourself. And so I think as a Christian, that's the framework I would probably work through to have goals for the year. And that's fine. I mean, there's different parts of our lives. You know, you might have certain goals for yourself personally, then there might be goals for your family, there might be goals for your business or your work, you know. But I think there needs to be some God goals in there at somewhere as well. You know, it might be to share the gospel with somebody once a week or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big goal.
I mean, that's pretty fun. Well, the Bible, you were talking about how God is always doing it bigger. I mean, his word says that he'll do more than we can ask or imagine.
Yeah.
So we tend to ask him for stuff and he's going, no. I want to give you more than that, you know, and he wants, it's on a much bigger scale. Again, back to the manifesting, part of my problem with that is it doesn't, as I've said, does not encourage you to look outwardly. It doesn't look for ways to serve other people. Now, the material I've read, a lot of it was talking about, you know, do you want to be the rich person or the famous person or, be the one who gets married or whatever it is. And you might say, well, I want to be rich so that I can do stuff for people or whatever. I'm not saying that every intent, and in fact, I'm not defaming people who maybe are practicing manifesting. You might have really good intentions behind it. I guess my critique of it is it's not operating in a way that pleases God, and it's not operating in a way that I think is spiritually sound in your life. So,
I can give you an example from our own life of where we have sought God rather than trying to manifest things ourselves. So a number of years ago, I can't remember, maybe 6-7 years ago, that was what God said to me was, dream with me, because I was talking to him about what was going on. I'd just started writing books and I had been working in IT, and I was sort of moving into being an author, and I could see that it would free me up to be able to really live anywhere if we chose to. And so I was talking to God about that, and he said, dream with me. And so I said, oh, wow, okay, yeah, really? And I thought I asked for something really outrageous. I said, I want to do a big family trip. And I felt like he said, okay. And then I said to him, but we don't have any money, God. So that's kind of an issue. And I was wanting to do a year-long trip. And I said, so we'll need to have this amount of money in the bank account in order for that to happen. And I felt like he said yes. And you probably remember, because I came outside and I told you I was all excited. I said, we're going to go on a big family trip for a year. And you looked at me like I'd grown 2 heads, because, we had 3 fairly small children, and we didn't have very much money. We were just living fine, but it wasn't like we had heaps of spare money just sitting in the bank, and you can't just take off from work for a year. And so you were not convinced at all.
I was the skeptic for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what happened then was I decided that I was going to believe in faith that God was going to do this. And it was about 3 years later, it was 2019, and we were planning that we were going to do it in 2020 because our daughter was finishing primary school. And we thought that would be a really good time to do it. But we still didn't really have the money to do it. And at this stage, you said to me, well, I'd really rather do 6 months, not a year. And I said, okay, fine. And then you said, and I'd also like to just pick one country to go to. And that was, you said you wanted to go to America. And so we were planning to go to America in 2020 for 6 months. And so because you said 6 months, we pushed it back to June. Well, around November of 2019, my books started to sell really, really well, but that meant that I had a massive tax bill come in that I was not expecting. And also, anyone who's grown a small business knows when you're growing a small business, cash flow becomes an issue. And so the tax bill came in and it wiped out all the savings we had for this trip and more, like $10,000 more.
And as I recall, I was really supportive and comforting and in the way that I said, I told you so.
Yes, you were very always the skeptic, and you were just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I said, yes, it is. And I actually sat the kids down around the dinner table and I explained to them, this is what's happened. We had saved money for this trip because we'd been talking about this trip for a long time with the kids. We'd saved money for this trip, and now the tax bills come in and it's wiped out all the savings and then some more. And then I said to them, but you watch what God is going to do, because he wants us to go on this trip. And within a few months, we had enough money to go on the trip. And by the time we left in June, which we had to postpone our America trip because of COVID, we ended up going around Australia. But by the time we left in June to go around Australia for 6 months, the exact amount of money that I had asked for was in our bank account.
Yeah, I mean, I have to commend you for how you held on in faith. And you were very bold in that, and I got to see God really be faithful as well. Like, God answered your prayers, and God was so faithful to you. And I got to, even though I'm the big skeptic and negative about it, I got to enjoy a 6-month holiday, which was fantastic.
Yeah, we had a great time, and it was exactly what we needed, because you were exhausted after, so many years of full-time work and doing your master's degree and raising small children and all that sort of stuff. You were absolutely exhausted. And it came just at the perfect time when COVID hit, and we were able to just get out of the city and go travel around as a family and have this amazing, brilliant time together.
Well, that was another blessing, is everybody knows how hard 2020 was, but we just lived it up. We hardly knew there was a pandemic on. Like, we just traveled around as freely as we wanted to and experienced everything we wanted to experience and was not held back. Like, we had a lovely 2020.
Yeah.
So,
and that was not from manifesting or relying on the universe. That was me seeking God, listening to his voice, and then trusting in faith that what he said was true and was going to happen, even when the evidence of that was not available to us. And I tell you what, when that tax bill came in and wiped out our savings, we had a preacher come to our church, and his name was Paul Martini, and he prayed for me in that service. And he said to me that I see a big family trip coming up and it's all paid for.
Yeah,
now,
how good is that?
It's like, Paul didn't know that we were planning a trip. He doesn't really know me. I mean, he knows who we are. He knows our names, but he didn't know me. He didn't know we were planning a trip. He didn't know any of those details. We hadn't told anyone yet. And yet he was able to hear from God and confirm what I already knew and believed in faith, and that we were relying on, that we were going to go on a big family trip and it was going to be all paid for. And it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's just God, again, being faithful to his promises to you. Well, see, this is so different to manifesting, because that whole story is based out of relationship and communication with God. So it's you putting your faith in your relationship with him, that he promised something, you trust it, you acted on it, and he followed through. Manifesting is trusting in some vague universe. And it's it's not about relationship, because there's no relationship with the universe. Okay. It's not a person. The way God is a person, God is a spirit. He's real. And it was in that relationship with him that he made this promise to you and then kept it. And we got to experience that.
Yeah. And I give all my gratitude and praise for what happened to him. And that's a big difference as well. You know, it wasn't my strength. I didn't do it out of my own ability, but it was God. I believe that God gave me the dream even. I believe that he placed it in my heart, and then he promised me that it would happen. And then I had to partner with him in faith. You know, a lot of times people feel like they hear God promise something, but they get distracted. You know, like when you step out on the water and you're distracted by the waves and you lose your faith in that moment. It's really easy when you see the things that are going on around you to lose your faith that God is going to do what he said he's going to do. But if you're obedient and you just choose to believe and have faith, you know, it's amazing. God does come through.
Oh, definitely.
And we're living testament to that.
Oh, yeah. And we have many other stories that we could tell in that same way, where out of relationship with God, he's faithful and he keeps his promises, and we get to experience the benefit and the blessing of that. To conclude, I guess, with the manifesting thing, I have a third thing. So one, I have three problems with it. One was that it's very selfish and inwardly focused. Two, there's a partnership with this vague energy, universe, whatever else. There's not relationship in it. And the third is, it really is, when you start looking at it, rooted in New Age and occult practices. It really does verge on witchcraft at times. Now, it's not as obvious as some of those things, but the concepts and those ideas underlying it are there. I'll share some of the ones I found. One of them is affirmations, having these powerful affirmations. Now, even in my book, Armed, which is all about prayer and intercessory prayer and how to organize a team and how to pray and to do that, there is a section that we talk about declaration. We talk about speaking things out, and there's power, because we know there's authority and power in our words. These are some of the affirmations for manifesting that they're suggesting. The universe delivers everything I want in perfect timing. I am worthy of all things positive that come my way. Again, I'm worthy.
Yeah, it's very self-focused.
It's very self-focused. You know, the Bible says we've all fallen short of the glory of God. We're all sinners, and we've all fallen short. We're not worthy. I deserve total abundance and everything I desire from the universe. So these are the things that they're supposed to speak on a regular basis to affirm. Another thing is, I found this thing called the 55 by 5 method. And apparently it's a really popular one in manifesting circles currently. What you do with this is you choose a desire you wish to manifest, and you write it as one particular affirmation 55 times for 5 days in a row. And what this is supposed to do is restructure your subconscious thought patterns towards your goals. Now, you may be going, why is it 55 times 5? Well, the idea is to utilize the energy of the number 5. This is what they explain.
Yeah.
In numerology, okay, there's a New Age occultic practice, numerology, 5 signifies great change and transformation, so it makes sense why this energy is powerful for manifestation, okay?
Yeah, so it's sneaking the New Age and occult practices into something that sounds innocuous and sounds positive and good, but it's really based in the occult.
It is, because it's putting faith and putting practices into
the universe,
the universe
earth and yourself.
And I think I even read there was something like a box that you could do, your dream box or your goal box or something like that, and you put your positive energy in it, and you can even put crystals in it. Again, a New Age idea. It just all verges on, as I say, the occult. Yeah, they're not doing quite the same sort of stuff that you would see in witchcraft, but there are
it's
rituals.
Pretty similar, yeah.
Rituals are involved, and God just does not want that in our lives.
And I just feel like, from my own personal experience, I can tell you that God does better and bigger than what you can possibly imagine yourself. I would never have dreamed that we would be able to take a 6-month trip with our family. We were never in a position to be able to do that before.
No, I mean, it sounds like a simple thing, and it's like, yeah, and I know there's a lot of people that do travel full time and whatever. I mean, it's kind of a popular thing these days, particularly when you're younger, but I don't think in our wildest dreams, I know for myself, and probably not you either, did we ever think that we could take 6 months off and just travel as a family? I mean, we've never had the money, and if we did have money, which we didn't have time, like we were locked into jobs and we were locked into responsibilities.
Yeah, you were a pastor for many years, and I was working part-time, and, we were busy. Anyone with 3 kids that works can tell you that it's a busy life, and you're just trying to make ends meet, and we couldn't have thought of or dreamed or imagined doing this, but I feel like God placed that dream in my heart. And then when I partnered with him in prayer and in faith, he made it happen. And it doesn't seem like a super spiritual thing, but as I say, it was exactly what we needed at that time in our life. And I think if anyone listening can just try this out for your New Year's resolutions, instead of just writing down things and trying to manifest them, talk to God. Ask him, what should I be dreaming? God, put a dream in my heart of what can be done, how I can change my life and move forward this year, and just see what he does and what he says to you, because you might be really pleasantly surprised.
For sure. Well, I think even the fact that you're an author, that was a dream from your childhood, but you thought, well, I can't really do that, until God reminded you and said, I want you to write. And it's kind of like he reminded you of your dream, and that he made a promise to partner with you in that, to go, I want you to write. And you do.
And I've spoken before about how I've heard God's audible voice twice in my life. And that was one of the times. I was standing in the house folding laundry, and I was thinking about other things. I was working in IT at the time, part-time, because we had our eldest was just a baby. And I heard God very loudly say, I want you to write. And I stopped what I was doing and looked around because it was so loud. And I said, write what? Because I didn't know. At that time, I only wrote strategy documents and plans and things like that for my IT job. And he didn't respond to that. So from then on, for years, I was writing. I thought maybe, as a good Christian, he must want me to write Bible studies. I bet that's what he wants me to write. And so I'd try to write a Bible study and get bored, and I'd write down dreams. I'd write down thoughts, anything that came along, I'd write it down, just trying to be faithful and obedient to him. And then it wasn't until several years later that I started writing fiction, and that just took off, and he's blessed it like crazy. We've been living off of my fiction writing now for nearly 8 years, I think. So that's an incredible blessing, and it isn't something I would have thought to do myself, because I didn't believe in myself to do it.
Well, and in talking about God's plan is always bigger, in that there's this dream that we can serve and minister and do what we're doing without worrying about finances. And it's like he's answered that, and I think he's still answering that. We're not concerned with that kind of stuff because he's going to bless us and he's going to take care of us.
Yeah, we've learned to just have faith that he will provide.
So it was even more than you just getting to have your dream of being a writer, but it's like, now I want to do, through that dream being fulfilled, I'm going to fulfill another dream and empower you and provide for you and all that, which is just fantastic. Well, I guess as you start to look at this new year and as you start to contemplate what is ahead, our prayer is that you would turn to God, that you would talk to Him, that you'd pray, that you'd spend some time with Him, asking what His dream is for you, and if He can give you a new dream in your heart. But we just pray for all of our listeners that 2024 is just a year of blessing for you, that it's a year where you just see God move mightily in your life and in the lives of those around you. And we just wish you a happy new year. This has been the Kingfisher Podcast with Eric and Bron Whitley. Bless you. Have a great day.